Hey guys, and welcome to another daily pack opening here at the Games Repository. Today we're looking at Magic the Gathering Journey into Nyx. Let's dive on in. First up, we have the black spell in the font cycle of cards. Font of Return. Once again, we've looked at this before. 2 mana, black enchantment creature, pay 4 to sacrifice it. Return up to 3 target cards from your graveyard to your hand. Not the most effective of the font spells. Returning things from the graveyard to your hand is potentially useful in limited, not so useful in constructed. Bit slow. Next up, we have Aspect of Gorgon. Another spell we've seen before. 3 mana, black enchantment, enchant creatures, gives your enchanted creature +1/+3 and has death touch. Perfect way to make a small creature a vicious blocker. Again, most useful in limited, not so useful in constructed. Next up we have Crufix's Insight. 3 mana green sorcery, reveal the top 6 cards of your library, put up to 3 enchantment cards from among them into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Not a bad spell. 3 mana to fix up some draws of things, especially useful given the fact that this block is particularly rife with enchantments. Could see a lot of play in both limited and constructed actually. Not bad, especially useful in a constellation deck. Particularly useful given the fact that a lot of the enchantments could be creatures, so still allows you to fix for creatures and spells to pump those creatures. Next up, Rotted Hulk. 4 mana, 2/5, black creature, no abilities. Very strong blocker in limited sets. 4 mana to get a 2/5 is pretty efficient. Its body size is big enough to deal with most threats your opponent's going to play very early game. Possibly still deal with some mid-game threats as well. Pretty good. Not strong enough to play in constructed though. Next we have Ferric has Chosen. 1 mana, 1/1 creature, black with death touch. Very useful. Good little blocker, especially early game in limited play. Possibly see some use in budgetary black constructed decks, though I don't think I'd play it myself. Next up we have another Pensive Minotaur. 3 mana, 2/3 red creature, no abilities. Much like the black creature we saw earlier, efficient creature for limited. Could see some play in constructed Minotaur decks if you're really into the tribal theme. Not a bad little guy. Strong pick if you're playing limited Minotaurs though. Next up, Countermand. 4 mana blue instant that we've seen before, counter spells, and allows you to mill the top 4 cards of your opponent's library. Again, reasonably efficient-ish. Its 4 mana cost makes it quite a hefty spell to pay for a counter spell, but in limited, all the counter spells you can get your hands on are useful. Not so strong constructed, pretty strong limited. Here we have another Supply Line Cranes. 5 mana for a 2/5 white creature with flying. When Supply Line Cranes enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Once again, one we've seen before. Also useful in limited. You get a 2/4 with an evasion ability. For 5 is not bad. The fact it pumps up creatures is particularly strong. So if you've got another creature on the battlefield that's really strong, you can make it all the stronger. Or you can use it to pump itself. Not bad. Pretty useful. Next up we have Hubris. 2 mana blue instant spell, return target creature and all auras attached to it to their owner's hand. Bounce spells are good. Unsummon is a very useful pseudo removal spell for blue. Always has been. This unsummon effect costs 1 more mana than unsummon itself, but also allows you to bounce all auras attached to their owner's hands. So, should you be targeting your own creature, not only do you save the creature, but you save all the enchantments attached to it, including your bestowed creatures. Not so useful at removing your opponent's creature, because they get their enchantments back as well, rather than going straight to the graveyard, but more efficient for saving your own creatures. And in this set with lots of enchantments, not bad. Useful as a budgetary sideboard card for blue decks. In Constructed, in Limited, pretty high pick. Next up, we have Loganoband Trailblazer. 1 mana 0/4 white creature with Heroic. Maybe cast a spell that targets it, put a +1/+1 counter on Loganoband Trailblazer. Not a bad creature, makes a good blocker early game, 1 mana for a 0/4. Should you get any abilities that target it, like say bestow creatures or other auras, you can pump it quite quickly, making it a reasonably efficient creature. Again, strong limited pick, weak constructed pick. Here we start our uncommons. To kick us off, we have Fellhide Petrifier. This is a 3 mana black 2/3 creature. Death Touch. Other Minotaur creatures you control have Death Touch. Once again, very strong in a Minotaur themed constructed or limited deck. However, this guy on his own, 3 mana for a 2/3 with Death Touch, is pretty efficient anyway. Good sized body for a good mana cost. Also allows you to get rid of your really annoying opponent's creatures or makes them think twice about blocking this guy. Very strong pick. If I was playing black in limited, I would definitely take this guy. If I decided to build a constructed Minotaur themed tribal deck, I'd play this guy. It's pretty good. Next up we have Rollick of Abandon. 5 mana red sorcery. All creatures get +2/-2 until end of turn. Very efficient way to swing through some extra damage onto your opponent if they find it hard to block your creatures because you've removed them with your red burn spells. Or could be useful as pseudo removal. Can be good to, if your creatures have particularly high toughness, you can get rid of all your opponent's creatures with the -2 ability, making it quite a good pre-combat trick. At sorcery speed, it makes it a lot weaker than it would be at instant speed, and at 5 mana, it's quite a steep cost to pay. However, in Constructed, it could be okay as a sideboard card for red deck wins, but the problem with that is that you use very low toughness creatures, and you'll kill your own creatures by casting it, so have to be very careful. In Limited, however, could be a great way to force through that extra bit of damage onto your opponents. Not a bad spell. Next up, we have Nyx Fleece Ram. 2 mana, 0/5, white enchantment creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. Pretty good for Constellation-themed limited decks. Quite efficient as a blocker. 2 mana for a 0/5 is good. Also nets you life at the start of every turn. Just an enchantment. Not a bad little guy. Nothing too good. Once again, good in a Constellation-themed limited deck, so say you're playing Sealed. Might play it if I was playing Constructed Constellation, but wouldn't play many of them. Last but not least, we come to our rare, Eidolon of Blossoms. This is a 4 mana 2/2 green enchantment creature with Constellation. Whenever Eidolon of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Drawing in green is always helpful. It's not something green is particularly efficient at, much more the domain of blue and black. However, this spell gives you a pretty efficient way within the block to do it. Should you be playing a Constellation-themed deck in either Constructed or Limited, this guy is a must. Perfect. Drawing cards, not even, and its body is reasonably sized, 2/2. And at 4 mana, it's quite nicely costed. You get a 2/2 body with the ability to draw. Efficient spell. I think it'd see play in both Limited and Constructed play, especially block Constructed. Thanks guys, until next time.